welcome to another edition of Hashtag Football Friday here on Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Cindy Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again at CK80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
Follow me at Lakeena McGee on the Twitter and Lakeena_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's Amazon, Apple, iTunes Store, Google Play, wherever you get your apps. Make sure it says Sports Zone Chicago. You know why? Because you can watch any of our live shows, including this one. That's why. And if, just in case you missed them, you can watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app right now. And speaking of Sports Zone, yes, speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to catch the audio version of this program, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. That's the Second City Sports podcast on War on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And you can follow War Media at WARR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. If you have any comments, you want to shoot us a comment or a question on any of our topics during today's show, during our 2-hour extravaganza, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. You can type in your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the beer bug boot.
Bye-bye.
I love saying that. Lakeena, this is the part that we usually talk about, the Chicago Bulls. It looks like there is some good news on the horizon. We'll get to that in just a moment. Usually we review the games that have been played this week, but unfortunately they've been on vacation because of COVID. COVID's been wreaking havoc throughout the sports world, both college and pro. We'll get to all of that as we go along here coming up. But the Chicago Bears also making news both on and off the field. Again, we'll get to them in a minute. It looks like Allen Robinson has been added to the COVID list. 3 assistant coaches have been added to the COVID list as they get prepared to play the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night. Lakeena, let's get to the unfortunate bad news of all this. I know we were scrambling before the show. We had to wait until Sean and my that show got off the air. But the COVID is wreaking havoc right now. It looks like over half of the NFL teams at least has one player or a personnel person in COVID protocols. You have 2 games tomorrow. Hockey, we saw, I believe, Philadelphia and Montreal last night. Of course, Canada has restricted attendance back down to 50%. We know the Calgary Flames have COVID issues. They still haven't played yet at all this week. Tomorrow's Bruins Montreal Canadiens game that's supposed to be on Hockey Night in Canada that has been postponed. And so, and of course, we'll get to the college basketball schedule. At least what's left of it, it's been affected them as well. So I'll say this, Lakeena, at least for your professional sports, hopefully in college basketball, you will hope they would have prepared for something like this. I know last year around this time, people were getting ready to get their vaccine, so and those leagues didn't jump the line. But you hope that this year they would have had a better contingency plan. It sounds like they did, but maybe it's just me. But maybe some of these folks didn't see this coming in the way that it did, especially with this Omicron variant floating around.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where people you can't really. I don't want to say put it on one thing. You have to put it on different things. So I've heard some people say, oh, maybe it's because some took the wrong vaccine or not the other vaccine, and then you have some that say, well, maybe they weren't vaccinated. From what we're hearing, some at least most of the folks who have COVID right now have been vaccinated. So however people feel about vaccinations, take that as you will. And plus, it's cold and flu season too. So I think people also need to remember that it's not just cold. I mean, apparently the Bears have not just that they have 10 guys that are not practicing right now because of non-COVID illnesses like colds and flus. So it's just everything's just wreaking havoc at sports. We'll get to all the other stuff has been affected, but it's just unfortunate that I've heard some, people say that, oh well, maybe, I heard our buddy Demond Squirrel, your former co-host Sid of D and
Hmm.
Davis, say that maybe all the winter sports should go on pause. I don't know if it's gonna get to that point. Some people say, well, let's bring the bubble back. I don't think they're gonna do that either. So I think really like the best that they can do is I know the Premier League, the soccer English Premier League, some of the other leagues in Europe, they're thinking about maybe perhaps pausing for a few weeks because of apparently, it's wreaking havoc here, but it's really wreaking havoc over in Europe. And
Hmm.
you just can't really predict these kinds of things. Everyone thought that we were this was behind us. We're in a post-COVID world. No, it's not. I mean, you still got things are happening, and with all the news about the Omicron variant well, at the very least, supposedly even more contagious than the Delta variants. I mean, it's just what can you do at this point? So I think really the best thing for everyone is just mask up. You know, if mask up, get your vaccinations if you can, or if not, at the very least, make sure you wear a mask and keep your distance, and just do what we were doing beforehand. You just got to get back to doing it.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color right here on Second City Sports. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, I don't know if you caught this, but Sean, Sierra, and Jason Palmer are cohorts at Sports Zone Chicago. They discussed this right before we came on today. For those of you that missed it, go to Sean and Maya in the morning, December 17th, and check out that show. They talked about this right before they closed regarding the NHL. Of course, we just mentioned that Canada, they're going through it right now with this variant going around, and they're restricted attendance from 100% to 50%. And we mentioned that Philadelphia and Montreal, they had no fans last night in the city of Montreal. Now, will we see this kind of action in the United States? No. Here's why: because we don't want to get too political on this show because we're not a political show,
Right.
but let's be honest. Ever since the turn of this year, it's not been about COVID. It's been about other factors, and we won't get into that too much. But
Right.
yeah, I know, like you said, some people are thinking that we should shut down winter sports and go back on lockdown. It's not going to happen. It's all about money at this point. Whether which side of the fence that you lean on, that it's all about money at the end of the day. I think there's a way to do this and to be safe, but going back on lockdown, like you mentioned, Lakeena, I heard some of these national pundits were talking about, especially going to the NFL. With all these, with this outbreak, the NFL should consider a bubble for the playoffs. And I said, this is about money at the end of the day. You have fans, whether it's outdoor or indoor. You have fans back in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to tell those fans not to show up, which means money. All these sports leagues depend on their money. Last year,
Exactly.
it was about the TV contracts, and that's how all those professional sports they got by. Facts.
Yep.
You go tell
Yes,
them
sir.
not to go back again? It's not going to happen. I'll be shocked if they did happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Sid, I mean, it's not like you said, it's not going to happen. I know some people say, well, maybe we should do what Canada's doing and reduce attendance by half. No, that's not happening. These leagues are trying to make up for, not being able to, to take place a couple years ago because of COVID. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're aware of what's going on. I'm sure, folks have said, and I heard a little bit of it. I heard a little bit of the ending of, with Sean and Maya with Sean and Jason, and it's not going to happen. It's not, and I think folks need to, the more I think folks should accept it, I think the better off I think they'll be. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel as if that's not going to happen unless things get really, really, really bad. I don't see these leagues threatening to shut down, or perhaps maybe even maybe reduce their lose their attendance. That's not happening. And I feel like if you're crazy to think that it's gonna happen here, it's gonna take place, because I just don't see it happening. It's not. I mean, the money is they're
Mm-hmm.
making money again. People are paying for the tickets, concessions and those type of things. It just isn't gonna happen.
Now, regarding to all the sports that we're talking about, at least with the outdoor stadiums, so this is, of course, referring to football.
Right.
From my understanding, you're not required to show your vaccination cards. But if it's an indoor place, and not just football, but definitely in basketball and hockey. I think the rule is still implied here in Chicago
Yes.
regarding to the United Center. You still have to show your vaccination card and or have a negative COVID
Negative
test
COVID test, yeah.
3 days prior to the event. So that's still going to go on, which we all knew that it was going to happen. Now, did people know that this was coming? Perhaps, but how bad would it could have gotten? Like you said, no one could have predicted that. But those things are still going to continue, whether we like it or not. Will this be the future? Who knows? I doubt it personally. But as of right now, going into 2022, this is what's going to happen if you want to attend a sporting event, especially if it's indoors. Outdoors, no problem. But indoors, this is what's going to happen. Now, going back to the NFL. I think the NFL started this. I think it was the NFL or the NBA. You could correct me on this, Lakeena, but they're going to start. I think it's the NBA. They're going to start testing every day from Christmas until January 8th. I
Yeah.
know that some people, as you mentioned before, with the outbreak going on across the world, but especially in this country, the United States. Oh, it's Thanksgiving. People are traveling. Oh, it's just. Oh, it's that. Like you said, Lakeena. It's cold and flu season. We've been dealing with this all of our lives. Please be careful. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, like I said, wash your hands. Wipe stuff down. Vinegar is a nice disinfectant. Which is natural. You don't have to worry about breathing the fumes if you're sensitive to that. Wear your mask, double mask if you have to. To keep your distance from folks, and or if you're going to hug somebody, make sure they're wearing a mask too. Don't be around someone if they're not wearing a mask. Here in our state, we're very strict. But especially indoors, you have to wear a mask. I know in some colleges in Illinois that you can't go into the arenas or the stadiums without a mask on indoors. So we're still we're very strict. And look, however you guys feel about the virus and vaccines and things like that, just use common sense. Okay, carry some hand sanitizer. Have some gloves with you. Take some Lysol. I know folks are already talking about Lysol again. I've seen it some.
I bought some Lysol wipes yesterday. Came to my house and I started using them. So
yes,
take some with you.
Take some with you whenever you go anywhere. Sid, whether you go to work, go to the store, whatever. Make sure you take some with you.
Also, too, this is a little old school tip, and I know I'm telling my age on this. Lakeena, I'm sure you did this too. If you didn't have any Lysol wipes or any disinfectant wipes, I know those didn't come down to the 90s and especially mid to late 90s. But remember, your mom used to, or your dad used to pour that hot water in a tub or in a bucket and pour some Pine Sol. They got the job done.
Yes,
they got the job done. I did that recently. I'm gonna do it again this weekend as I had to clean up my house again. But remember, you used to do that, and it worked every time.
It worked like a charm. Yep.
So, I don't want to go old school, new school again. I don't want to beat down everybody in the young generation, but we were creative back then.
Yes, we were.
I'm not saying people didn't get sick back then. Of course we did, but it seemed like to me we didn't have all the advantages that many of these young folks have today.
I don't think we did either. But yeah, I mean, just like Sid said, just do the little things. Just like I said, just use common sense. Take some hand sanitizer with you. Take some Lysol wipes or Clorox wipes with you. Spray as much as you can. I would say spray yourself down with Lysol or wipe yourself down with your coat. Your coat, especially if your coat. Because some people say it's airborne. So look, there are things you could do to kind of limit yourself. Take vitamins. Probiotics. And then
I know Sean said iron. Put some iron in your
yes.
In your system, yes.
Iron pills. My mom takes those. They're just little things you can do. Take a multivitamin every day. Take a vitamin D pills. Just the little things. I would say just use common sense. I would say just make sure you do what you can to protect yourself. I mean, it may not totally prevent it, but at the very least you can limit your exposure. I know folks have said we're gonna have gatherings for Christmas. I would say, make sure it's limited,
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone, Chicago City. Lakeena here with you. We promise we'll get to the action, sports action on the court and on the field of play coming up in our next segment. But Lakeena, we have a couple of minutes left. Breaking news is coming across the wire. Sean Payton, NFL head coach of the New Orleans Saints, he has tested positive for COVID. He will not coach Sunday night's game against Tampa Bay. Dennis Allen, the former Raiders head coach at one point, he's this, believe the defensive coordinator down there now.
Yes.
He's going to
Yes.
assume coaching duties on Sunday night.
Yeah, and unfortunately he had it. He had it last year, so
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing a lot of folks who had it last year. Kevin Stefanski, who's the Browns head coach,
Mm-hmm.
he has it. He had it last year. I mean, it's just one of those things where
That's why he
we're
missed the
still.
playoff game last year against
Yes, he
Pittsburgh.
did Pittsburgh. Yeah, so we just it's just unfortunate, but like I said, if it's I'm honestly I think you really don't know what to think or what to say at this point. So like I said before, just be
Mm-hmm.
careful and just try and make sure use common sense. That's really all I can say at this point. I mean, there's really nothing else that's going to totally prevent it. But look, do the tips that we've mentioned. I'm sure when
Mm-hmm.
our buddy Christine Manika joins us for KXRB, joins us later on, I'm sure she'll have probably, she may have some tips as well, so you never know. But it's just the little things at this point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't, like I said, we weren't out of the woods. There was going to be variants. There's going to be other things that are going to come around that might be. We're still learning all this as we go. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say the best thing I can say is just wear your mask up, wash your hands, keep your distance, and just make sure to just be good to each other. Like I said at the end of the show, and just use common sense. I can't emphasize that enough.
Last thing on this before we turn the page and hit the bottom of the hour. I heard a couple of national pundits comment on the NFL this week because almost looks like almost every team has at least one personnel or one player in protocols. I know we have a couple of games tomorrow. The rest of the schedule is on Sunday. Of course, we had the Bears Vikings on Monday night. But remember the Super Bowl last year in Tampa. Remember there were no parties
No.
last year, and the family members of the two participating teams last year, Tampa and Kansas City, immediate family members were allowed only, but you couldn't allow your cousins or your aunties or anything like that to come down last
Your
year.
boy.
Exactly.
Your boy, yeah, your boy from
Right.
the old neighborhood, yeah.
Exactly. Hopefully, like I said, these leagues will get past this, but I think assuming that it gets worse, I think they'll have those restrictions again. I'm talking about the NFL, because this year is in an indoor stadium at SoFi Stadium
Right.
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They want to have those parties again, especially in that city, in that state. But I think things will get better. But I don't, as of right now, I don't see the NFL having a strict lockdown policy during the Super Bowl like we did last year. That's just me. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens down because we have a little bit over a month and a half before the game takes place. I believe that's on Sunday, February 13th. And so we still got less than 2 months away. So hopefully things will turn around soon. And we won't have and the NFL won't have to have a quote unquote lockdown policy on the Super Bowl because
Yeah.
they want to have those parties
Oh,
because
yeah.
they didn't have them last year.
Especially since it's going to be in Los Angeles, so
Exactly.
I definitely think they want to make sure, and a lot can still happen between now and February
Mhm.
13th. I think maybe having that, I think, will help. Now, again, I don't think there's going to be any strict lockdowns. I mean, if anything, it'll probably just limit how many people can have you can have at your parties.
Mhm.
Maybe other things going on. Maybe do it virtually. I don't know. What the parameters are going to be. I'm sure they'll figure that out. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said before, there's not going to be any pauses. Maybe maybe they pause a week because there's too much money involved. So yeah, it's just I didn't think we were gonna have to go through this. I figured we were gonna go through this again, but not to this extent. I mean, it seems like it's just going crazy again.
Yeah, like I said, there's some outside factors too. We won't get into that here because,
Mhm.
like I said, this is a sports show, not a political show. But I told somebody this last year, even though we are learning about this virus, we just got to treat it just like the flu. You just have to be careful. Like you said, wash your hands. Just take care of yourself. And just use basic common sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that's hard for some folks, but yeah, you got to do it. I mean, look, I hate wearing a mask outside and indoors, but you do what you got to do, to keep
Hmm.
yourself from getting sick. I don't think
Exactly.
any of us does. So look, I hate Lysol and wiping things down, but look, you got to do it. So just do it, folks.
Yes. On the flip side, we'll get back to at the action on the field of play, on the basketball court, on the ice, and on the football field. It looks like there's some good news ahead for the Chicago Bulls. We're getting to the best and worst
Yay.
of the NBA from this past week, and give you some of the games to watch this upcoming weekend. And the Chicago Bears have made news again. We'll get into that as well. You listen to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday edition, live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena are here with you. Stay right there.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports. AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NFL Thursday night, the Chiefs beat the Chargers 34-28 in overtime. Kansas City 10-4 with the win. The Chargers dropped to 10-6. 3 touchdown passes for Patrick Mahomes in the win. 31-47 passing, 410 yards. Travis Kelce with 2 touchdown grabs. Justin Herbert had a pair of touchdown passes for the Chargers. 22 of 38 passing, 236 yards. He was picked off once. Mahomes connected with Kelce for a 34-yard touchdown pass on the first possession of overtime to win it, putting some separation between the division-leading Chiefs and the Chargers in the AFC West. Scary moment in the first quarter when Chargers tight end Donald Parham Jr. was knocked unconscious. He was stretchered off, but is reportedly in stable condition. Kansas City's winning streak at 7. The Chargers had a 2-game win streak snapped. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Shop 40 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. This week only. Plus, new deals on outerwear and sweats. Save through December 15th at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com.
Do you think it's okay to drive stoned? The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Stop kidding yourself. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners, available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena with you. We are live and in living color as we'll turn to the action on the basketball court. Lakeena, let's get into some basketball talk. The Chicago Bulls, their next game will be Sunday night at 7 o'clock at the United Center. They'll host the Los Angeles Lakers. That game was originally scheduled for 2:30, but it's been moved to 7 o'clock on Sunday. It looks like there's some good news on the front end for the Chicago Bulls. Looks like they're going to get some players back, to at least have enough players available to play this game on Sunday to resume their schedule.
Yeah, DeMar DeRozan, if you saw his Instagram page, he had like I think he's an iPhone guy. He had like the battery, with the charged up. So I'm assuming he's going to get cleared, and a couple other guys. I believe Tony Bradley Jr. is going to be cleared too. So I think that'll give the Bulls enough guys to field the team. I think
Javonte Green was cleared too.
Yeah. So they're going to have enough guys to play. And because that was a thing, that they've had to, go through because of, they had to, postpone some of their games because that, unfortunately, it's going to be a while for, Zach and some of the other guys, AO as well. So it might be a couple more days before we'll see them back on the court. But this is a good sign. Hopefully, they're turning the corner. And, I know it's killing them. And then, if you heard Billy Donovan's comments, I'm sure it's killing him and the team. They're not going to be able to play, But it's for safety reasons and such. But hopefully, I don't want Bulls Twitter because how some of them are going to be freaked out. They don't look good against LeBron and them, and they look. It's going to be it's going to take them maybe a few games to kind of get everybody back on track, especially when everybody does come back, healthy and everyone's cleared, and they're being cohesive. So I think folks should just slow down. I mean, it's better. I guess if there's a bright side, it's better that this happens now than I guess near the end of the season, near the playoffs and all this. So maybe it's better it happens now. Everyone can kind of get their druthers in order, and just give them some time. Just make sure guys, just make sure you give them some time, because it's gonna take them a few games. Everybody kind of get back on track.
Yeah, you brought up my next point. As I was going to mention that I'm sure they didn't have enough players to practice this week, because the people that you want to practice, they were in, or some of them are still in healthy and safety protocols. So, like you mentioned, like, maybe you still get a couple more guys back right in time for the game on Sunday, but it's still going to take some time. I know some people would say, well, they had training camp to do. They had a couple of practices early in the season, so it should be fine. As you mentioned, it's going to take time because of the players who were out. As we saw in that game last Saturday against the Miami Heat, those players who were on the floor, they competed, but your main guys that were supposed to be out there weren't out there originally. So the ones who were on the list prior to Saturday's game. So, like you mentioned, Lakeena, it's going to take some time. But you think it's no good time to get sick. But like you say, rather happens now than when the weather turns in March and April and stuff still happens. Because remember, last year, Zach was on the COVID list toward the end of the season. The Bulls had a realistic shot and get in the playing tournament rather. It didn't happen. So you say sometimes all good things come out of tragedies, and maybe this is a good sign for the Bulls. So things are starting to turn around. So we'll just see what happens. I want to see how they come out against the Lakers. Of course, the Lakers have their COVID issues we'll get to in just a second. But I want to see how the Bulls come out and play. It'll be a little bit over a week since they played the game. And so, like you said, with their conditioning and the lack of practice time this week, yes, I'm sure some of them could have used this time off, but especially we haven't turned the calendar to January yet. It's not even an all-star break, but it's going to take time to get back to rhythm because most of the guys that you used to play with have been out.
Yeah, and I think, like I said before, and they haven't been able to practice. So, that's another thing I think people need to remember. I mean, they're still, look, it's good. Like I said, it's going to take a few games. It's probably going to take maybe a week, maybe even 2 weeks especially once, Zach and Ayo and the others, are able to come back. And you just have to, I think fans just need to be patient. Because there have been some teams that went through this, and look, it's going to take a while for some teams to kind of get back into a rhythm. You start practicing with each other again, because you probably haven't seen each other, because you've probably been doing Zoom meetings and such. And I know it's killing Billy Donovan and the rest of the coaching staff, because they haven't been able to game plan, they haven't been able to, because they haven't been able to practice, haven't seen the guys. So I think folks should just chill out, take it one day at a time. Everybody's gonna hopefully by this time next week, everybody will be healthy, and just everybody can just get ready for the new year, and just let's get going and try to get one of the top seeds in the East.
And speaking of the Los Angeles Lakers, Russell Westbrook, their all-star point guard, he entered health and safety protocols yesterday. Of course, this move now gives the Lakers the exception, which most people expect, because they signed not Detroit Pistons legend, but they signed Isaiah Thomas, who ripped it up in the G League the other day with 42 points. So Isaiah Thomas, the one who was fourth in MVP voting with the Boston Celtics a few years ago, the Lakers signed him. So he's basically going to replace Russell Westbrook. He should be the second guy coming off the bench next to Carmelo Anthony. So the Lakers, they're going through it right now. We talked about what happened to LeBron over a week or 2 weeks ago. He missed one game. He had that Nick Saban special, that false positive. And he was back on the court. I wonder why. But the Lakers, they're going through it right now. The NBA is going through it right now. I know some people, I was on Twitter yesterday saying that, next Saturday is Christmas Day. Of course, you have 5 games going on all day and all night. They should consider cutting a couple of those games. I said, unless, like you said, Lakeena, in our last segment, which something really bad happens, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's when people start getting into the NBA, and there's too much money made. And look, and I think I'm sure they've tightened up on the testing and such, and they're encouraging guys to get their boosters. So it's just, look, unfortunately we're into that season where you're going to have people are going to be ill, people are going to get sick. So I would, like I said before, I'm going to keep preaching about it till I'm blue in the face, like a Smurf. Wash your hands, mask up, wear gloves, and just be careful. And look, I know Giannis, apparently, he's now in safety protocols. James Harden's also in it as well. among some others. So look, they're not. Look, I don't unless it gets really, really crazy. That they're not going to pause the season. I know some people have said, "Oh, well, maybe they should just get rid of a couple of games, or maybe just pause the season for a couple of weeks. Wait till after the new year." They're not going to do it, folks. Just it's not going to happen. And just want to finish this. They're not going to reduce. They're not going to reduce the attendance in the facilities like Canada's doing. That's not going to happen. Go ahead, Sid. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's too much money involved. Whether side of the argument you fall on, it's just too much money involved. I know some people may say, "Well, Sid, they shouldn't be that way," but we just telling you how these businesses operate. They're a private business, so they can operate however they want. They're not the government. They're not anything else. They're not going to override them. Let's be honest here, but they're private businesses. They're just like any other business. They're there to make money, and so this is what's going to happen. That's why you see in these restrictions and, like I said, these strict bumps and testing. So this is what's going to happen, and we just got to push through this thing moving forward. You listen to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you, Second City Sports, live and in living color. If you have a question or comment for us during any of our topics during today's show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comment section, and Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's go back onto the court. This past Tuesday, the Warriors defeated the New York Knicks 105-96. Ray Allen's record was broken as expected by Steph Curry. They stopped the game. Reggie Miller, who was doing the game with Brian Anderson, he came out and hugged Steph Curry right in the middle of the game, which was expected. Ray Allen was there, hugged them. And there were some pundits this week that said that, yes, it's an important record, even though in today's era, the three-point shot is more important than ever. Some people think that this is an overkill for the celebration to stop the middle of the game. I wanted to ask you, Lakeena, did you think this was overkill, or did you think that the moment was
just right? It was just right.
Right.
It was just right. I didn't think it was overkill. I heard I saw some of the folks on Twitter. I could call some out, but I'm not going to do that. But but people need to remember. I mean, they didn't start counting 3-point stats until maybe the mid '80s or late '80s or something like that. So I think the fact that Steph at 33, I'm going to keep saying it, is still shooting at a high level just shows you he did it in less games. I think 511 less games than Ray Allen did, breaking that record that Reggie held. So, and it was just come on. I mean, you got to give Steph his props. He's the reason the Warriors are the Warriors again. And I know that they have a couple of guys. I know I saw Jordan Poole tested positive yesterday, so he's now in safety protocols. Clay might be back on the 28th of this month, so maybe about a week and a half. That's the rumor going around in the Bay Area. But yeah, I mean, look, let's give Under Armour had a great ad featuring Steph, from when he was a baby to his college days at Davidson, and now being the best three-point shooter in NBA history. So let's give the guys some props. And it was a very well done call by Brian Anderson. I mean, he didn't talk for about 10 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, to let that moment breathe. And of course, Reggie Miller, of course, wanted to be there to kind of hug him. I think there was a reason why Steph, stopped short when he was in Indiana. They played Indiana. He was a couple
on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a couple away from that, but he wanted to do it at MSG. He knew the game was going to be nationally televised. So just why not? It was all set up for it. So let's give him his props.
I think what was overkill is Spike Lee's suit. He looked like love you, Spike, but that orange jumpsuit. He looked like Sweet Daddy Williams from TV's Good Times from back in the day. All he missed was the feather hat.
Oh my God, you're on the way back machine with that one. Crazy.
Yeah, did you see him after the game? Taking pictures of standing behind Steph, taking a picture of the special jersey that the NBA made for Steph Curry. How many career 3-point shots he made? Yeah, that was really
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he's taking really pictures. Cool. Yeah, hey, how you doing? Click. Let me kneel down. Click. I forgot who sent this out. Yeah, I forgot who sent this out. Oh, I forgot who sent this out on social media. I saw it on Instagram, but whoever did this did a phenomenal job. I don't know if you saw it, Lakeena, but they had Jordan's famous free throw line dunk, and they had
Yeah.
Spike on the court taking
Yes.
the picture.
Taking
And that
pictures.
other
I remember that
events,
commercials,
that
yes.
that other historic sporting events, and Spike Lee was sitting right there.
Yeah, that was crazy. Look, it seems like Spike's always there for those moments, whether
Yeah.
or not it's his team or not. We all remember what happened in the playoff game years ago, and the Pacers and the Knicks, and their battles. And also too, the fact that he was there for that moment. I mean, okay, I think he wanted to kind of get a little bit of attention because he knew that the fact that the Knicks, Knicks were going to lose, and Steph was going to get the record there. I think he wanted to dress nice for the occasion, I guess.
Well, he got more attention than he could handle. And he took advantage of the moment. I saw that. I was like, wait, I got to get this out of my system. So, like I said, congratulations to Steph Curry. He's number 1 in 3-point field goals made of all time in the NBA. He still has a few years left to tally on that record. Charles Barkley said too, following the game, that record will not be broken, I don't believe, for a long time. So Steph Curry could put that record up. It'll be almost like the Joe DiMaggio 56 straight game hitting streak.
Yeah, I think the closest active guy is Harden. I think he's the closest active guy that's there.
Mhm.
So, but I think he's still a little further off. And of course, we told you he's in health and safety protocol, so he's not even playing right now. So, he might, Steph might have this record for a while. So, but congrats to him and props to him. And look, I'm sure he'll tell you that he didn't think a skinny kid from Charlotte, who is his dad, still a very well liked figure in the NBA, and also to his his mother as well, and also to Rex Chapman, babysat for him for a little bit when they were all when they played with Hornets together. Those were really good teams back then, when they in his infancy. But yeah, I mean, look, I think Steph should definitely deserve his due, and let's give it to him because I don't think he's done yet.
Speaking of James Harden and the Brooklyn Nets had a good week this week. They won both their games home and away. This past Tuesday, as you mentioned, I did watch some of this game via this computer screen. They defeated the Toronto Raptors 131 to 129. Yeah, and it was a very good game. The Nets had like 4 or 5 players in protocols, including James Harden. Kevin Durant came up big in that one. And of course, last night they defeated the Philadelphia 76ers 114 to 105. So Brooklyn doesn't have all their guys yet, but they're playing at a championship level right now. That's why they're sitting on the top of the Eastern Conference.
The fact that they're doing this, with with a lot of their guys being shorthanded, it's not just KD. Griffin had 17, Claxton had 17, and Patty Mills could do it with 14, and I think that's what you want if you're Steve Nash. You want yes, you want KD to kind of take all the shots and some of the big shots, but you want the guys to support him and help him, especially since Harden's going to be gone for about another week and a half. So if you're Brooklyn, I think you're showing that you are next to the Warriors, you're the best team in the NBA, and probably the Suns too. But yeah, you're the best team you're in the East at least.
Yeah, and speaking of another surprising team, let's go to the Western Conference. The Memphis Grizzlies, I believe, are now 9-1 in their last 10 games. Of course, their star point guard John Morant is out. He's still going to be out a few more games, but Desmond Bane had 23 points in Memphis's 113-103 win over Portland on Wednesday. You still have Dylan Brooks, Jared Jackson, Steven Adams, and Kyle Anderson, who had some big moments in the playoffs last year against Utah, even though they lost that series in 5 games. This Memphis team is a grinding team, and they can score with the best of them right now. No one saw this coming. They're now 18-11, the number 4 seed in the Western Conference. I don't know if they can continue this until John Morant gets back, but right now you have to give them their props. I did check out some of that game on Wednesday, and they really can move the ball around. They have to without their star point guard, and they've been doing that for the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of like the grinded out team. I think the fact that they're doing this, guys have stepped up, like you said, the guys you've mentioned, and it's one of those things where you never know. People thought that John's gone and going to be gone for a while, and the Grizz are just going to go to free fall. But no, give Ryan Silverfield. I mean, I know people probably don't know who he is because he coaches in Memphis, but I think he should be getting some consideration for perhaps coach of the year, because the fact that I think they're like 7-2 or 6-3 or something like that. Since Morant's been gone and he's still gonna be gone for another couple of weeks. again, I don't know if they can keep this up, like you said, but the fact that they got a good, solid young team. I think Steven Adams has kind of given them that sort of that tenacity that's been going for him. And look, we'll see what happens when Morant does come back. I don't know if they can, how the team's going to look. Excuse me, but I'd say if you haven't watched some Grizzlies basketball, watch it because you might like what you see.
Speaking of liking what you see, did you check out the ending of the New Orleans
Yes.
Pelicans Oklahoma City Thunder game?
Yes.
The Pelicans beat the Thunder 113-110, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hit almost a back-footed game tying three, tying the game at 110. Then, of course, Javonte Graham hit a three-quarter shot beyond half court to win the game for the New Orleans Pelicans. And you should have seen the reaction on Alexander's face. He couldn't believe it after hitting a miracle shot himself.
Yes.
He couldn't believe it after Graham's shot. Like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't seen it, check it out on social media. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I saw that. Someone ever tweeted. I saw that on like a 61-footer by Graham to win the game.
Yeah, he only had a 3% chance of making that shot.
Yeah, so sometimes it is luck in the NBA, and you win games that way. I mean, that was just a really good game, and that was just a crazy. I can only imagine what Alexander was going through. I know he was sick to his stomach when Graham hit that shot, and look, weird things happen sometimes. You thought they were going to go to overtime, but then Graham said, I'm going to say this prayer and hopefully answers for him. But it was a really good game nonetheless. So that was just a crazy game. And the reactions too on both sides, I think, was just hysterical. Their meme was all over the place. Now, with the Lakers, a nice win against Dallas in overtime, 107-104. Yes. Austin Reeves. Now, that name doesn't sound familiar. Some of you college fans will know who he is. He played at Belmont for a couple of years and transferred to Oklahoma, played for Long Cougar for the last couple of years. And definitely he's been, tearing it up in the G League. Speaking of tearing up the G League, he came in, had 15 points, including the go-ahead three that propelled the Lakers to that big win. And he saw, LeBron and AD's reaction after the game. It was just crazy. So it looks like, there's at 16-13, as of, this recording, they're starting to kind of turn the corner a little bit for the Lakers. So what do you think about that game, Sid?
Yeah, the Lakers turned it on, especially in overtime. We mentioned Russell Westbrook is in healthy safety protocols, so he missed that game. Of course, Austin Reeves. This is why he had backups, capable of backups, because something like this happens. And Austin Reeves stepped up, like you mentioned, with 32 minutes of action and 15 points, including the game winner. Anthony Davis, in 39 minutes of action, only had 20 points and 12 rebounds. You thought that he would have done a lot more, especially with Luka Doncic sitting out this game, but that didn't happen. Of course, LeBron did his thing with 24 points in 43 minutes. Westbrook did play. Let me correct that. Russell Westbrook did play. He did play. He did play with 23 minutes, but he did look fine. But of course, no one knew at the time that he was going to go into healthy safety protocols. So that will be his last game until further notice. But you take a look at some of the numbers coming out the bench for the Lakers. Carmelo Anthony struggled, only 9 points in 24 minutes of action. Kate Bazemore, the first time he's seen some action in a while, no points in 15 minutes. DeAndre Jordan, only 2 points in 8 minutes. So the Lakers had to be carried by their starters, and also Reeves was a big important factor coming off that bench at the end.
Yeah, thank goodness, because like you said, they didn't get a lot of contributions, besides Westbrook, James and AD. So, I think thankfully, Reeves was able to step up when he did. So, and if you're Dallas, I mean, you've been struggling. I know some folks in Dallas have already questioned whether or not, Jason Kidd's right for the job. They're at 500 as of this recording. So I don't know what can you say at this point. As far as the Mavs is concerned, one thing I think a lot of people aren't talking about is Utah. They have the best point differential in the NBA right now. They beat the Clippers 124-103. Of course, Donovan Mitchell. If it wasn't for Steph and what he's doing, he'd probably be consideration for MVP. He had 27 points. They have next to the Warriors. They have the next best record in the West. Jordan Clarkson kicked in with 21 off the bench. Gobert had a double-double with 20 and 13, 17 rebounds, I should say. So But look, I'm at that point and show me when it comes to Utah. I feel like we have had this conversation for like the last 3 or 4 years since
Yes,
we
yes,
started doing the show together. Sid,
yeah,
do it in the playoffs, folks. Look, it's nice that you can beat the Clippers and the Lakers maybe every once in a while, but can you do it in the playoffs? I think that's sort of like the thing for me at this point. When it comes to the Jazz, I'm in show me mode. Show
yeah.
me. We know how good Quinn Snyder is as coaching. Do it in the playoffs, folks.
Yeah, going back to one team of the Eastern Conference that's coming back to the pack, so to speak, and that's the Washington Wizards. They're on their West Coast road trip. They lost to the Sacramento Kings on Wednesday, 119-105, and then they lost by 20 at Phoenix last night, 118-98. I still believe the Wizards could be that team to qualify for the play-in tournament, but right now they're running to a mediocre at best Sacramento team. Of course, Alvin Gentry, their head coach, is out because he has COVID. And of course, last night the Phoenix Suns showed them why, and showed the country why they still should be one of the top teams in the West come playoff time.
Yeah, I think they can be. I think look, they're kind of quietly. I think people they had that big win streak earlier, and they're still winning. I know people thought that maybe they would win, they would lose maybe 2 or 3 in a row, and they would kind of fall back to earth a little bit, but they haven't done that. And I think you're leading the way by. And it's not just Booker. It's not just CP3. I know Booker's out right now, but they've had guys step up. They've had DeAndre Ayton has stepped up. Landry Shamet. There's a name that we haven't heard. You probably haven't heard in a while. With 16 points, like I said, JaVale McGee. Yes, folks, he's still around. He has.
Yeah, he's very important to the Suns team right now.
Yeah,
he's very important.
he has depth to that bench. So, I think the fact that they're still doing this without Devin Booker, I think is nothing short of remarkable. The fact that a lot of people thought that maybe they would probably kind of, come back to earth a little bit, but they haven't. It just shows you how good this team is, how great of a coach Monty Williams is.
Yeah, and Phoenix should be one of those top teams in the league come playoff time. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and living color. Sid Lakeena here with you. Before we close out hour number 1, let's give you the key games for this weekend coming up from the association. Let's start off with tonight's schedule, which is Friday. The Miami Heat will visit the Orlando Magic in the Battle of Florida at 6 o'clock. The Nuggets and Hawks will get it on from State Farm Arena in downtown Atlanta at 6:30. The Warriors and Celtics will do battle from the TD Bank North Garden. That's the first game of the ESPN doubleheader at 6:30. Of course, you have Bucks and Pelicans at 7 o'clock. Of course, Zion Williams, he had a setback in his foot rehab, and he's going to be reevaluated in between 4 and 6 weeks. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, there'll be the second game of the ESPN doubleheader, as I'm reading here, at 9 o'clock. Of course, you have Charlotte at Portland at the same time. And then, of course, the Sacramento Kings will host the white-hot surging Memphis Grizzlies without John Morant.
Yeah, we'll see if they can keep it up. I know that the Lakers, I'm sure they saw the schedule and think, oh crap, we have to play the T-Wolves again. So we'll see how they do. I know that they lost their first meeting, so I'm sure they're gonna. But granted, I don't think LeBron played that game, so I'm sure.
No, he didn't.
So they're gonna want their revenge. Absolutely. Now going into these Saturday games, Houston and Detroit. I know Houston's kind of been having some problems of their own with COVID, so we'll see if they'll be able to play. The Knicks, who got a much-needed win yesterday against these same Rockets. They play Boston at 6 o'clock. That's the NBA TV game. Orlando and Brooklyn, we'll see if Brooklyn can kind of keep it up, despite being shorthanded. Golden State and Toronto at 6:30. That should be fun. LA and OKC, the Clippers and OKC, I should say. Cleveland and Milwaukee, we'll see if Cleveland's been playing pretty well, so we'll see if they can give, I know they don't have Giannis or Chris Middleton right now, so but that should be an interesting one at 8 o'clock. And also to Washington and the Jazz, those red hot Jazz. As Washington continues their West Coast trip.
I wonder why that game between the Rockets and Pistons is at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I wonder why.
That's a good question. Maybe it can't be maybe weather related. That's the only thing I can think of. Maybe that's why, or maybe they just said, let's have this game at 11 a.m. I don't know, but
yeah, for those of you on the West Coast watching it on League Pass, it'll be at 9 o'clock your time in the West Coast. So live Saturday morning basketball.
Hey, sure, why not? I mean, look, if you're in Houston, you're going to be up early anyway. So,
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how that transpires. But go ahead,
yeah.
Sid.
Yeah. Now for Sunday's games, the Miami Heat would pay a visit to the aforementioned Detroit Pistons at 5 o'clock, followed by Trail Blazers and Grizzlies. That's also running at the same time. The Spurs and the Sacramento Kings at 5 o'clock. At 6:30 rather, we'll have Cleveland at Atlanta. Of course, Denver at Brooklyn. That's the NBA TV game for Sunday. Of course, Lakers and Bulls at 7 o'clock for the United Center. New Orleans at Philadelphia at 7 o'clock. Mavericks at Timberwolves at 7. And then, of course, wrapping up the Sunday night schedule, you will have the Charlotte Hornets at the Phoenix Suns, also at 7 o'clock Chicago time.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see if that game with the Lakers and the Bulls is even played. I mean, the Bulls will have enough, but now the Lakers are having issues with COVID, so you just don't know with this at this point. Dallas and Minnesota, that should be interesting. So yeah, pretty good schedule going into the weekend in the NBA. So we'll see if we'll see some upsets and maybe some changes at the top in the standings.
Yeah, we should see what happens with the NBA. That is your schedule for this weekend from around the association. Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports continues with our review from last night's Chiefs Chargers Thursday night football contest. Another head coach in the NFL has received his pink slip and link cards, and we'll have our Week 15 NFL picks with our homegirl Christine Manika from KXRB Radio. Listening to Second City Sports right here live in living color on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NFL Thursday night, the Chiefs beat the Chargers 34-28 in overtime. Kansas City 10-4 with the win. The Chargers dropped to 10-6. 3 touchdown passes for Patrick Mahomes in the win. 31-47 passing, 410 yards. Travis Kelce with 2 touchdown grabs. Justin Herbert had a pair of touchdown passes for the Chargers. 22 of 38 passing, 236 yards. He was picked off once. Mahomes connected with Kelce for a 34-yard touchdown pass on the first possession of overtime to win it, putting some separation between the division-leading Chiefs and the Chargers in the AFC West. Scary moment in the first quarter when Chargers tight end Donald Parham Jr. was knocked unconscious. He was stretchered off, but is reportedly in stable condition. Kansas City's winning streak at 7. The Chargers had a 2-game win streak snapped. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Shop 40 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. This week only. Plus, new deals on outerwear and sweats. Save through December 15th at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com.
Do you think it's okay to drive stoned? The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Stop kidding yourself. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners, available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We are live and in living color on the hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keita McGee on the Twitter and at Keita_McGee on the IG.
You can download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, and you can listen to any of our live shows, including this one, Second City Sports. If you missed any shows, you can go back and listen and watch them at your own leisure. And make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you have a question or comment, for us during the last hour of the show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your question or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up for you. But if you decide to do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the beer bug boot.
Bye.
I love saying that.
That's your
Let's get
producer
to
saying.
now. Let's get into hashtag Football Friday. Lakeena, a big game on Thursday Night Football last night on Fox and NFL Network. It was the battle of the AFC West. Of course, the Chargers had the season series lead over Kansas City 1-0. Kansas City walked it off with a 34-28 win in overtime thanks to Travis Kelce's game-winning touchdown, catch and run in overtime. Lakeena, a couple of observations for me. Of course, both quarterbacks, Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, they are both. Yeah, thank you. They are both good. No shocker there.
Yeah, I'll say
but
that's a big
we heard on an update that that the backup tight end for the Chargers had to be carted off the field. That was an ugly injury. Hopefully he's okay. I know Joe Buck made a silly comment. Some people had problems with on social media. We won't get into that here. But back to the game. The Chargers, I told you, Lakeena, they are going to the playoffs. I still believe they are, but you can tell the difference between an experienced team and a young team. What I mean by that is it was a 13-10 lead by the San Diego Chargers at halftime, but that should have been a 28-10 lead. Why? Because the Chargers for the game went 0 for 3 on fourth down, including 0 for 2 at the goal line on 4th and goal. I know that the head coach is aggressive, and you love that, but you got to execute at some point. The Chargers had a chance to put the Chiefs away in that first half. They didn't do it.
Yeah, this is not the first time they've done it either. Apparently, they've done this before, way back. I think it was the 80s. I thought I had it with me. Oh yeah, 1984 to the day yesterday, December 16th, against the Chiefs, where they had they did it the first
shocking.
Time. Yeah, I know, right? So I think they ended up winning that game though. But look, I'm the analytics I think has ruined football. I feel like, because don't try to be the smartest person in the room. Use common sense. This is a theme here, folks. Use common sense. Take the points. The points. That whole thing would have never been overtime. Y'all would have won that game, and this and that. And you wouldn't have the season series and would have the division in your hands right now. The AFC West in your hands right now. But no, you decided to try to be the smartest person in the room. Like, oh, I'm going to go for it. We'll get a yard or whatever. No, stop trying to. No, still keep it simple. Take the points. And look, I know we won't get into it, but I know some people say, well, Herbert should have had a chance in overtime. Okay, how about the Chargers defense making a stop? Look, I know Chris Jones. Yeah, I know Chris Jones was out.
What a concept.
Yeah, I knew. Look, I know Chris Jones. Who's their best secondary guy was out due to to COVID, but still, that's no excuse for them to do it. To not, look, I know Mahomes and the gang are good, but come on. I mean, if you just made a stop, this wouldn't have been an issue. So I don't want to hear that either. So look, keep it simple, and then the experience and such. Again, the Chiefs weren't that impressive. I think they took advantage of Chargers' mistakes and just not using common sense. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, Kansas City is now 10-4, while the Chargers dropped their record to 8-6. Taking a look at the numbers for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes was 31 of 47 for 410 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. His quarterback rating was a 105.8. In the rushing department, Carl Edwards-Helaire had 9 carries for 32 yards. Patrick Mahomes, 3 carries for 32 yards. His longest was that 32-yard run toward the end of that game, toward the end of regulation, I should say. Kansas City only had 86 total yards of rushing. Patrick Mahomes nearly had half of that. So Kansas City couldn't run the ball effectively last night, but they sure passed the ball well. So you can see the difference in the Chiefs' offense. It's still not right, but they took advantage of the Chargers' mistakes, especially defensively last night. Travis Kelce, who caught the game winner in overtime, 10 catches, 191 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill had a monster game, 12 catches, 148 yards, and a score.
Yeah, so the aerial attack for the Chiefs, I think that really helped them and kept them in it. And look, like you said before, I know the Chargers were shorthanded with their secondary. Some of the guys, had to sit out, but look, the Chargers have multiple opportunities to win this game. Why did they run the ball? Why didn't they give the ball to Eckler and Jackson to kind of help put the game away for you guys? Because it was actually doing good for you, especially since coach the defense. Look, I understand what Coach Staley was saying that they were shorthanded in the secondary. They didn't want to have to put an onus on the defense. But look, sometimes you got to sometimes you just got to play do with the odds, take the points. You're in an indoor stadium, so it's not like you had to deal with. I know it was cold, for LA standards yesterday.
Oh, there's nothing like that good old recycled air conditioner.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, but come on. I mean, let's use a little common sense here, folks. Look, I get it. Look, analytics, okay, whatever, but keep it simple. Don't try and make this into negative, bigger sense than not.
Here are the numbers for the Chargers from last night's loss. Justin Herbert, 22 of 38, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception, a quarterback rating of 82.8. The Chargers as a team had 192 yards rushing. Jackson had 13 carries for 86 yards. Also, Eckler, as you mentioned, 12 carries, 59 yards in a score. Justin Herbert had a rushing touchdown early in the game. But it was their special teams. Andre Roberts, a one-time Raider, he had a great kickoff return to start the game, and you thought that the Chargers would have put some points on the board, and they couldn't do that, especially early in that game. In the receiving department, Keenan Allen had 6 catches for 78 yards in a score. Mike Williams had 3 catches, 49 yards, and Jared Cook, their tight end, had 3 catches at 32 yards. Austin Eckler had 4 catches for 32 yards coming out the backfield.
Yeah, I think I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why they didn't try to run the ball more, because I think that's what kind of propelled them and has helped them. So that's what got them deep into the end zone all those times. So I don't know why they didn't try to emphasize on the ball, especially when they still had that big lead. So look, the Chargers have multiple chances, and they have multiple opportunities to close this game out, and then it wouldn't have gone to overtime. But it is what it is. Now, I wish we had kind of like a breaking news sounder, or something, but in the background, or something like that. Old ABC, news brief, with God rest his soul, the late great Peter Jennings, among some others. But this is according to Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network, who does a great job, by the way. He says, quote, that this is from about like 20 minutes ago. He says that the NFL and NFL Players Association are in active discussion about postponing multiple Week 15 games in light of recent COVID cases per sources. With new cases emerging with the Cleveland Browns, apparently Jadeveon Clowney just tested positive. The Rams, of course, they've had their issues also to the Washington football team. So, something to kind of keep your eye on as we go in the day. But we talked about it earlier, Sid. I mean, the cases are emerging, and it's kind of getting out of control. And like we said before, we don't want to rehash anything, but just some important news, and to kind of keep you guys abreast of what's going on, because there are some talk of perhaps maybe postponing some games. We have to push some games back. I mean, remember we had Wednesday games last year, Tuesday games, so this isn't a new thing. I'm sure the NFL was hoping to avoid this, but it's happening. I know they have to kind of be proactive.
Well, selfishly, Lakeena, not to make light of the situation, but a couple of those games will have to get moved. I think the nation is assuming they'll move it to Monday. If one of those Saturday games or Sunday games should be moved, I think the nation will be at ease and not have to watch that Bears mess on Monday.
They might try to put it earlier, because they don't want to have the Monday night to kind of be sort of like the game. So yeah, I'm not saying the Bears. I'm not saying Vikings Bears are the game, but yeah, I mean, just well, I mean, if you can avoid it, I mean, sure, why not? But that's probably gonna happen. But yeah, fact that I know people are lobbying for. No, I just want to finish this point. I know folks have been lobbying for it. You might get your wish. So go ahead, Sid.
Yeah. Also, sort of breaking news from the LA Chargers camp, we talked about Donald Parham Jr. He will be released from the hospital today, which is great news. He's being diagnosed with a concussion. So, as we mentioned at the top of the show, if you heard during our update, he was knocked unconscious last night during the first drive of the game, and it looks like that young man is going to be okay. So, our best wishes to him is doing a healthy and speedy recovery. So that's great news for that young man right there. Yeah, you're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Football Friday. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone. Chicago Sid, Lakeena are here with you. Our girl Christine Manika is coming up with our Week 15 NFL picks. Yours surely did well last week, but we'll discuss that at the bottom of the hour. Lakeena, as we continue our football talk, I thought that we were going to avoid it, but it looks like we can't. The Chicago Bears making some more news. At this time, Gary Finsick, the great one-time safety for the Chicago Bears, 76 to 1987, the Yale graduate. He's chimed in with his own opinions for the Chicago Bears. He spoke to Dan Reeder, the Bears beat writer for the Chicago Tribune. As I pull up a couple of quotes here, he said that, quote, "If you're the Bears, there's no way but what's consistently happening on the field that you can look at yourself in the mirror and say that you see a successful organization." Continuing, "If we're going to go through this again, I'll be really disappointed if we aren't. Then the decision makers at the time need some outside coaching and counseling," Finsick said. "They need direction on how to go about making much better football decisions."
Well, I mean, I don't think some of that stuff I think he's right on, but I think some of the other stuff is just like, really, I don't. I mean, look, I know this didn't get much play as I thought I would, but it's kind of one of those things where he's like, some of it he said is true, but some of it isn't true, and like I know he has his own issues, with. Of course, he's in the COVID protocols, but I think, I'm sure Allen Robinson would like to go back there, get back on the field so that he can start sort of auditioning for a new team. And I'm sure a lot of these guys are going to be gone. I'm sure Hicks is going to be gone at the end of the season. Maybe Trevathan is probably gone at the end of the season too. So that's a lot of money that you're going to get rid of. So Fenwick said his piece. I mean, he is right in some forms, but he isn't on other forms. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and just wrapping up this last quote from him from that article from Dan Reeder from the Tribune. Finsick said, "People ask me all the time, do the Bears ever ask you for advice?" Finsick said, "I go, nope, never, not once. I'm not offended by it." I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, that's okay. That's cool. Okay.
Now Jalen Johnson, going back to the team currently, he was on Redline Radio, the Barstool Sports Chicago podcast the other day. He said that there are some players are basically hanging it up, while there's some players have some left in the tank to finish out the season. Looking, as we say every year around this time, especially during football season, when your team's not in the playoff race, you still have something to play for. Your job, whether it's on the team that you currently play for or you're auditioning for another team for next season and beyond. And the way that we saw the Bears perform last Sunday night, especially in that second half, yeah, we can blame head coach Matt Nagy all we want, but it also ultimately comes down to the player. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and have some pride.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully maybe they can finish up with, play a little bit of pride and finish up some of these games. I mean, like I said, the Giants game might be the only game they'll probably win. I'm sure they'll probably split the Minnesota game, and Seattle. I'm sure Seattle feels like they still got a shot at the playoffs. So I'm going to get the best from Russell Wilson and that group. But yeah, so maybe they can. I don't know, but it's just crazy how all this works now. This is actually from the National Hockey League, Sid, our buddy Dave Curtis, who does a great job at WBBM 780, who's a sports anchor there. He's
in front of the show.
Yes, we got to get him back on soon. It seems that NHL's ordered pause and schedules for the Panthers, the Avalanche, and the Flames until at least December 26th. That means, the Hawks game they're supposed to be playing in Florida against the Panthers. That's been postponed for next Wednesday, and the Flames will have at least 6 games have to make up, including that game against Chicago that's supposed to have been happening on Tuesday at the UC. So, COVID, we can have it also too from Ted Nguyen, who does a great job covering NFL and LFL films. The NFL has agreed to forfeits over postponement, but what they face, the reality of losing money, they get cold feet. So, I'm sure there are going to be some postponements if necessary. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Things are kind of, changing by the second.
Yeah, let's bring in our buddy from KXRB Radio, hometown girl, our very own Miss Christine Manika. Christine, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm packing at the moment, actually. I'm making my trip back to Chicago tomorrow, so I'll be home for a little bit for the holidays.
Yeah, have a happy and safe flight to
Thank you.
Chicago.
Yes.
Has that snow melting yet in South Dakota?
Yeah, we had a
Okay,
couple.
good.
I don't know if you heard this, but we kind of had some crazy weather on Wednesday.
Yes,
So
we've heard. Yeah.
yeah, so
Mhm.
it was we in Sioux Falls, we were right on the edge of that storm. And I said if it moved a little bit more to the left, we would have been hit with a lot of those big storms. But for the most part, on my side of town, we had wind gusts to about maybe 64 miles per hour. And then for when it comes to the real weather, it was just rain. Some parts had thunderstorms, some parts didn't. But we missed those tornadoes for sure. That was all in Iowa and a little bit of Minnesota too.
Yeah, we send our thoughts and condolences to those people in the state of Kentucky because
Yeah.
those some of those cities in that state have been devastated by those tornadoes. So we'll send our real wishes to
Yeah.
those folks in those communities so they can get back on their feet and fast and safe in a hurry. Christine, we've been talking about it. We started off the show and we talked about it a little bit here before we brought you on. COVID has been wreaking the sports world, including college basketball as well. I know we'll get into
Yeah.
that after our picks, but it looks like as Lakeena reported a few minutes ago, one or both of those Saturday games tomorrow could be postponed or moved to earlier time. If anything happens between now and when we close over a half hour from now, we'll let you know what happens. But it looks like almost every team in the NFL has at least a player or a personnel person in protocols. Of course, the Bears have their own issues here. So, what are your thoughts about this?
I think it's encouraging to know that organizations like the NFL, they're the ones that is leading the charge here, so to speak, saying that if the player is vaccinated and is asymptomatic, then that player can go back to play with the team. So I think that's positive, knowing that they're willing to make those sort of adjustments. I think it's also going to encourage other players to get vaccinated in order to play. That would be the hope anyway. And I think another positive outlook is too with the Omicron variant. It's not as severe as what a lot of people were thinking when it first came out. It's milder than the Delta variant even. So I think it's a lot of positives into a very negative what's going to happen in my team situation. But knowing that, organizations like the NFL is willing to make those sorts of adjustments, that just defines the sign of the times that we're living in right now. It's literally just pivoting in this new normal and just trying to navigate it all.
Yeah, do you think, we like Sid said, we talked about this earlier. Do you think there's going to be any pauses or, games being postponed? We've already seen it in college hoops and on both the men's and women's side. Some people said that the NFL, they might postpone a couple of these games, as Sid mentioned. Do you see like the leagues, taking any pauses? I know in the Premier League they're thinking about doing it over in Britain, since it's crazy over there. So what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I wouldn't be surprised. We just had a basketball game be canceled for tomorrow on the men's side of things. They were playing Augustana University. They were playing Winona State, and their team on the men's side, they're having a little bit of a COVID issue right now. I think at this point, it I don't want to say everyone's bound to get COVID or at least get exposed to it at this point, because I think that's just what's going to happen. Are they going to shut down? I wouldn't say shut down. I would say postpone a lot of the games for sure. It's what they did was going to the NBA with the Bulls. Like, I think that was the absolutely right thing to do. If 10 players have COVID on your team, who are you going to throw in there? Chance the Rapper? He's usually on the sideline. You want to like, sure, they could play. I saw a Facebook post this week that they're saying, hey, Jimmy Graham, he's a triathlete. He can baseball, basketball, and football. Throw in Jimmy Graham for a night and see what happens.
Play
So
basketball. Yeah, you play basketball in college too. So maybe
yeah,
that's where people were saying that.
exactly. So it's a kind of like, I don't think nobody wants to have what happened during the start of the pandemic, where just everything shuts down, money is lost, teams are losing time and stuff like that. So I don't think that's going to happen again. But I do think they're going to start regulating more of those regulations at the beginning, more of those COVID protocols, I should say, in the beginning. and start at least canceling games.
We talked about this earlier too, Christine. Of course, Philadelphia and Montreal going to the National Hockey League. There were no fans in Montreal last night. Of course, Canada. You think that is bad here in the United States, which is crazy, but in Canada is even worse. Their attendance capacity has dropped from 50 to from 100 to 50%. That's for the Raptors basketball team. Of course, all 7 Canadian hockey teams in the National Hockey League. So some people think that something like that should happen here in the United States. Me and Lakeena both said no because of the it's not about COVID anymore. It's about economics, and that's why we saw what we did see at least through the summer, people getting back into these stadiums and businesses opening back up. I don't see that happening in the United States. Like I said, we're not a political show. We're not going to go the political route, but if something like that were to happen, these mandates, wherever you think about them, whatever side of the curtain you're on, I know people have their own opinions. That's one thing, but we started to see something like that here in the United States. It's really going to get ugly.
You know, I think it goes back to the vaccination rates. In all honesty, maybe Montreal is doing what they're doing because not as many of their residents are vaccinated. So that's what I think it's automatically going to come down to, especially when it comes to the states. And it's no secret that, South Dakota has been doing its own thing since the start of the pandemic. So if anybody wants to come play in South Dakota, please come play. If you're worried about it, we'll have it.
You may have all 7 Canadian hockey teams playing in your state.
Right, exactly.
But it's very interesting. I remember when I was back home in Chicago in July, and I was at a White Sox game with one of my friends, one of the 2 games I went to. And I remember a vendor saying, they're talking about going back to 50% capacity. And this was in July. This is in July that they were talking about. So before the Omicron variant, and when pretty much everyone had the vaccines available and Delta was just becoming a thing. That never happened. There was scuttlebutt about it, but it never happened. So again, I think it just depends on where you are at in this world. If Montreal doesn't have as much vaccination rates as whatever the other countries are in Canada, I don't know, but it literally just depends on what the government wants to do. And again, it's not a political show, but that's what it comes down to.
Already some changes we're already dealing with, I see, because according to Adam Schefter, they're discussing, the NFL is discussing switching Seahawks and Rams to Tuesday, and this is according to Christine Anderson, veteran NFL reporter. According to her, she said that the Raiders-Browns game is being postponed to Monday. So whether it's Monday night or whether it's Monday afternoon, I don't know. Folks going to be taking their winter break, so they may put in the afternoon right before the Vikings-Bears game. So
that's official now.
It's not official yet. I know this is according to Justina Anderson, so I haven't seen from anybody else confirming it. But I guess if she says it, then there must be some truth to it. But we'll see. And look, Shefty, just tweeted that the Washington Philly game is now being postponed to Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
that's when the other game lost for Fox. I'm sure they'll still broadcast it. It just won't be on Sunday now.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So things are coming out fast and furious, folks.
Yeah, so like I said, with the variants going around, and the NFL is stepping up their testing and vaccination policies, even though the majority of the leagues are vaccinated.
Right.
This is just like last year before when the vaccines were coming out around this time. We expected the NFL to do this, but it looks like it's not going to be as bad as it was a year ago. But as we said before, the NFL is not going to miss those game checks because if the games had to be canceled, that means that the players won't get paid, and the network, that the NFL had to give the money back to those networks, and that wasn't happening last year. It's not going to happen now because and we said this at the top of the show, Christine. The 4 major sports here in this country: NHL, MLB, NFL, and hockey. I'm sure I repeat myself somewhere, but
NBA,
all 4 major sports got NBA. All those leagues survived off their TV contracts, and that's how the players and the personnel got paid. Now with the fans back in the stands, they're not going to miss out on that now. So
and and also too, let's light it up like real quick. With the college bowl season is starting as we speak, your guy, Kenneth Walker Jr. said is skipping the Peach Bowl. He's also leaving for the the NFL draft, I should say. Also, too, Kenny Pickett, who is the talented veteran 5-year quarterback from Pittsburgh. He's not good. He's going to skip and prep, as he's going to start prepping for the NFL draft as well. So that's now I'm sure that's now a pick'em game, that Peach Bowl between Pittsburgh and Michigan State. But yeah, so we talked about it last week about top players deciding to sit out or skip their bowl games. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Because I'm sure we're going to be seeing it more and more as we get closer and closer to some of these big bowl games. So what's your take on this?
I said this a couple of years ago on our radio show, and I'll say it again. We saw it with Leonard Fournette when he was at LSU, Christian McCaffrey at Stanford. You seeing it here. Unless you're playing for the national championship, you should protect yourself. Mm-hmm. You're going to the NFL draft because there's a lot of money at stake for these hopefuls, and your draft position is important. And so if you're a player, even though you have all these NIL rules and all the stuff that's coming to college football, we'll get to that on the other side of this break. But if you're Kenneth Walker or another high top prospect, unless you're playing for the national championship, you must protect yourself. You have to look out for yourself, because those schools don't give a damn about you once you're gone or if you're hurt. So you got to look out for yourself.
No, I agree. And I said that last week too, how if you have a chance to go to the NFL draft, go. Don't worry about your college bowl game. And like you said, Sid, unless you're in the championship, do whatever you have to do. It's a great opportunity. You're young. You have no one holding you back. Go do it.
All right. So I'm sure we'll talk more about this as we go along here, as we get closer and closer to some of the big bowl games. But we got to take a really quick break. Yes, we'll keep you updated on any more games are being, pushed back or, being moved. So we'll take you guys update on that. But nonetheless, though, we're going to do our picks for week 15. Sid is starting to pull away, and, I'm still in last. So that's a little teaser we have coming up. All right. With Sydney Brown and Christine Manika from KXRB, I'm Lakeena and McGee. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you in a bit.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. NFL Thursday night, the Chiefs beat the Chargers 34-28 in overtime. Kansas City 10-4 with the win. The Chargers dropped to 10-6. 3 touchdown passes for Patrick Mahomes in the win, 31-47 passing, 410 yards. Travis Kelce with 2 touchdown grabs. Justin Herbert had a pair of touchdown passes for the Chargers, 22 of 38 passing, 236 yards. He was picked off once. Mahomes connected with Kelce for a 34-yard touchdown pass on the first possession of overtime, win it, putting some separation between the division-leading Chiefs and the Chargers in the AFC West. Scary moment in the first quarter when Chargers tight end Donald Parham Jr. was knocked unconscious. He was stretchered off, but is reportedly in stable condition. Kansas City's winning streak at 7. The Chargers had a 2-game win streak snapped. For lightning fast sports updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of the most popular sports apps in North America. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Shop 40 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. This week only. Plus, new deals on outerwear and sweats. Save through December 15th at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com.
Do you think it's okay to drive stoned? The truth is your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Stop kidding yourself. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Fever is a potential sign of COVID or the flu, and the Exergen temporal scanner thermometer has been proven accurate with more than 100 clinical studies. Be vigilant and seek medical advice at the first sign of fever. Be accurate with Exergen. Exergen temporal scanners, available at Walmart and other fine retailers. Learn more at Exergen.com. That's EXERGEN.com. Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
Welcome back to Second City Sports Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago on the hashtag Football Friday right here on Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. Sid, Lakeena, and Christine with you as we'll get into our Week 15 NFL picks in just a moment, bro. Breaking news from the world of the NFL. Tomorrow's Raiders-Browns game has been rescheduled. We'll get more information on that in just a moment. And Washington football team quarterback Taylor Heineke has now entered health and safety protocol. So both, so the 22 players on the Washington football team are currently on their list. You can add Taylor Heineke's name to that list now. As you mentioned, Lakeena, it seems like the news is changing with players and teams by the second.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to all that in a second. Apparently, that Raiders-Browns game is now scheduled for 4 p.m. our time, Central Time. So that's right before the Vikings-Bears game. So,
I
right?
wish it was running at the same time.
I know. They're not going to do. They weren't going to do that. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they weren't going to do that. But yeah. So Sid, you had 11, so you're starting to pull away.
I lost 2 games last week. Apparently my best week of the year.
Yeah, that is your best week. And Christy, you had your best week in a while too. You won 10. I only won 8. So you're pulling away. You're both pulling away from me, but I'm coming after both of y'all. We still got a few weeks left, so I'm coming back with a comeback here. I don't know if it's gonna be Brady, when he beat the Falcons at the Super Bowl a few weeks back, but all right. But even though this game is rescheduled now, it's not going to be on 4:00 on Monday, the Raiders and Browns, but we'll still do that first. Coming up, Sid, you start this one. Raiders and Browns.
Let's see, the Raiders and the Browns. My cheat sheet says for the moment the Cleveland Browns are favored by 5 points. Of course, this may help Cleveland because both their quarterbacks, Case Keenum and Baker Mayfield, on health and safety protocols. Maybe you can get one of them back in time for that game on Monday. Who knows? But the Raiders, they're on to stay on the East Coast for a couple more days. I know they're going through their issues, and they didn't look good last week. But this is a coin flip for me. Do not get the coin, Christine. I'll make this pick on my own. But as of right now, I'm going with Cleveland.
See, I was struggling with this one because the quarterback situation for Cleveland, that's kind of an up in the air situation. However, the Raiders have really been messing me up with my picks and just have been stinking up the field. But it now with the game being moved, I think it just kind of depends on who can be active to play. If the new rules apply at this point, if they say you're asymptomatic, you can go, then that could change everything. I did pick Cleveland, but now with everything up in the air, it's kind of, I think I'm just going to stick with my gut and say Cleveland just because Vegas has been struggling lately. But again, with this game being so up in the air, you just don't know what's going to happen. So if you're a betting man or a woman, stay away from it. But for now, my pick is going to be Cleveland.
Yeah, I think even with all the issues, Las Vegas, unless they have an intervention, I don't see them coming back. But I'll say Cleveland. I know they've had their like I said, their issues going on right now. We'll see if Baker could be cleared to play. He may not be cleared. We don't know at this point, but we'll just have to wait and see. But right now, I'm picking Cleveland too. Now, as of right now, this game is a go on Saturday nights. Of course, the time of year, of course, you have Saturday games. We want to make sure we mention that. Patriots and the Colts. Christine, you start this one for us.
I think the Colts have really impressed me a lot, and probably the rest of the NFL too. They're good, but I don't think you can underestimate the power of Coach Belichick and Mac Jones, because he's just been lighting up that field, and the way that he just takes command of such a well-known team and a well-known organization. It's inspiring for sure. So with that being said, I'm going to go with New England. I'm picking the healthier quarterback over someone that's been beaten down God knows how many times.
Of course, Indianapolis is trying to keep up in that wild card race in the AFC. Of course, New England is trying to clinch the top spot in the AFC. Of course, Kansas City has a lot to say about that, especially after their win last night at Los Angeles against the Chargers. I'm with you, Christine. New England is a better team. Can the Colts compete with them? Yes, even though they're at home, but it's going to be an ugly, close game. I see New England running the ball very well. I know John DeTeo's on the other side for the Colts, but I see New England coming out of there with probably with a 17-14 win. So I'm going with the Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 2.5, by the way.
Okay, and they're coming off a bye as well. So, oh
Mhm.
Jesus, I might hate myself for this, but I guess I'll pick the Patriots. But like I said before, if the Colts pull off the upset, I wouldn't be surprised if Wentz throws for 4 touchdowns, if the defense kind of smothers Mac Jones. I wouldn't be surprised. All right, now this could be another game that could be moved, but we'll still pick it anyway. As of right now, the noon games on Fox, you got the Cowboys and the Giants. The Giants now have, I guess, 7 players, 6 or 7 guys on the defensive side in health and a COVID list or IR. So, but I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, if the Cowboys don't get back on track this week, if Dak doesn't show some promise and I know Zeke's been banged up, but even still, I mean, you're going against the Giants, a bad Giants team. I know they have 4 wins, but they're still terrible. So I'm picking the Cowboys, and if they don't blow them out, then I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, Dallas almost gave that game away to Washington last week.
Yep.
I watched the majority of that game. You thought they were going to put it on Washington, but they just couldn't. They had to hold on. But like you say, Lakeena, the Giants are a bad team. The Cowboys should do whatever they want. Dallas is favored by 10. I'm going with the Cowboys. Enough said.
Short and sweet, Dallas. They got to get back on track. Yeah, they got to get back on track during this week. And this is the game to do that.
All right, I wish we could skip this game, but we have to pick it. A pair of 2-11s. You got the Texans and the Jags, of course.
I'll start.
Okay, I'll set it up here for a second. Of course, Urban Meyer is now gone. So if you had the over/under of Urban Meyer being gone before Christmas, you got a nice little early Christmas present there. We won't get into all the stuff, but Christine, go ahead, my friend.
Gosh, I call this the toilet bowl league. This is definitely going to be the toilet bowl game. I had an interesting conversation because I circled this game because I'm like, God, it's like, who am I going to pick for this one? And I have an internal bet going on with my ESPN buddy at the one that I work with, Jeff Turn from ESPN 102.3 in Sioux Falls here. And he said I would go with Houston. And I said, you're crazy. I know that Jacksonville has their problems, but they even beat Houston during the start of the season. And I expect that trend to continue. So I'm going against whatever that idiot said and going Jacksonville. I call him an idiot all the time. It's hilarious.
Jacksonville's favored by 3.5. Of course, Urban Meyer is gone. Those players are happy. Let me tell you, It's a home game for them, and they are going to show their best. If they don't do it here, I don't know when they're going to do it. Houston stinks. Let's go with the Jaguars.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a totally different Jags team now that Urban Meyer is gone. So,
absolutely.
you saw some of the posts from social media from the players. I think some even I heard like one of them said like hallelujah or had a gift saying like hallelujah or something like that. That scene with Tim Robbins from that scene with Tim Robbins for I can't think of the figure. Oh, Shawshank Redemption. Where he kind of like
there you go.
They had that gift, so it was hilarious. But yeah, I think you're gonna see a totally different Jags team. Houston's, they're just as bad. I mean, but I think the Jags are probably going to play their best game this season, and they're going to probably win this game pulling away. An interesting one here. You got the Titans and the Steelers. So you start this one.
The Titans are favored by 2.5. Pittsburgh still hanging around the wild card race. Tennessee is trying to keep up with the top spot in the AFC. This is really a hard one to pick. Tennessee doesn't have a running game. Pittsburgh does, but Pittsburgh, they're schizophrenic. They show up one week and they can play with the best of them. The next week they'll fall flat on their face. I know this is my take two and call me in the morning game, but I'm going with Pittsburgh, even though Tennessee's favored by 2.5.
I agree. I'm going with Pittsburgh too. Just because I think, especially being a home game for them, that's pretty much the main reason why I picked it, because they have great fans in the stands. And I think Tennessee is going to have to find a way to catch up with the Steelers in the end of this one.
Okay, I might regret this one too. I'm going back and forth in this game, but I guess I'll pick the Steelers because I don't know which Steelers team you're going to get. Like, the Titans, they don't have a running game with Derrick Henry being out, and AJ Brown, I'm sure there's no update on him, so he might still be out. So this deal, it might be one of those 9-6, 6-3 type of deals, or 3-0 or whatever. So I'm picking the
1970s
Steelers.
football.
There we go.
Well, yeah, that's probably what you're gonna get. Absolutely. But moving right along here, you got the Jets and the Dolphins. The Dolphins need this game to kind of keep pace with their very slim playoff hopes. A lot has to happen ahead of them, not only them winning their games. Like I think Tua will have a nice showing. I know the defense, the Jets might keep it close for a little bit. This is a nice AFC East showdown, but I'm picking the Dolphins.
Short and sweet for me, Dolphins. It's got to be. The Jets have their own issues, which, by the way, I found out at the beginning of the season. I was wondering where our former kicker Eddie Pinheiro was, and he just signed on with the Jets. The poor guy. So I wish him the best of luck there. But for this game, it's got to be Miami.
Zach Wilson of the Jets, welcome to South Beach. I'm going with the Dolphins.
Gosh.
All right, now of course this game's been pushed back, but we're still gonna pick it nonetheless. Though Washington and the Eagles, who are coming off the bye in NFC East, looks like Jalen Hurts will be back for the Eagles. So the COVID issues with Washington, I don't know how long they still might be a little bit banged up. So I guess there's another pick I might regret later, but I'm picking the Eagles.
I'm doing the Eagles for this one too, especially with Hurts being back. There's a lot of uncertainty with the football team now, with all the COVID the players that are on the COVID list.
Mhm.
And this is just a good NFC battle that's going to happen if it turns out to be a good game. But for this one, I'm going to say fly, birds, fly.
Yeah, with Heineke and Kyle Allen on the COVID list, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick's out for the year with that hip pointer. Washington's got to find a quarterback to play in that game. And how long can this quarterback learn their playbook? I don't know, but I'm going with Philadelphia on this
We'll
one.
see.
Yeah.
I'll say, we might have to do like a little crash course here, but
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. But okay, again, short and sweet, Cardinals and Lions. I know some people said this could be a potential trap game for the Cardinals. It's a short week. They're traveling cross country. They got to play a noon game. I don't think it's going to be a big problem. I think they're not going to be very happy the fact that they let the game against the Rams slip away. It might take them a little bit. It may take them a quarter to kind of get their feet going, and their energy going. But I'm going to pick the Cardinals. I think they're going to pull away late. They can't afford to lose any more games. They want to keep pace with the Packers and the Bucks for the number 1 seed in the NFC. So I'm picking the Cardinals pulling away.
I'm going with Arizona as well. Lakeena, we got some good news for that game on Sunday. It says now with that Washington and Philadelphia game being moved to perhaps Tuesday. You know who we get on that game on Sunday for Fox for Arizona Detroit?
I know we got the all brother team and Gus Johnson and Keith Talib, making their return.
Yay!
You might get that game here in Chicago, so
Yeah.
So again, with the Washington Philly game being postponed, I think we might get that game. We'll see, but yeah.
Yeah, so Arizona's favored by 12.5. They're going on the road for a noon Central Time game against another bad NFC North team. We saw what they did here in Chicago a couple weeks ago. They'll do it again, so Arizona will beat Detroit.
Yeah, I wouldn't. This game doesn't fool me for a second. Arizona.
All right. All right. Yeah, let's keep it short and sweet with this one. You got the Panthers, who apparently don't have a quarterback, and the Bills, who have been in free fall. Sid, you start this one for us.
Besides those two bad non-calls by the officials last week, Buffalo still had a chance to beat Tampa Bay. Like you mentioned, Carolina with all their issues. Because it's a home game and Buffalo needs this game more than the Panthers do, I'm running with the Bills.
I'm going to run with the Bills, too. What happened with Cam Newton? I totally missed that.
Unfortunately, you can't go home again.
Oh, boy. Well, he tried. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills. They should have a pretty solid game now with the uncertainty of the quarterback. And they kept it close with Tampa Bay, but I had my faith in Tom Brady. So this one is going to go to the Bills probably.
Yeah,
Panthers are a 9.5 point underdog.
Okay, yeah, I probably would take that, but yeah, I mean the Bills, they've had a couple of rough games, the last couple of weeks. I mean this could be a get right game for them. Panthers, they don't know who they want to play at quarterback, so hopefully Josh Allen, it looks like he was a full participant all week long. It seems like he's recovered from that foot injury. So, give the ball to Devin Singletary, let your defense do their thing, and hopefully maybe they can smother whoever the quarterback is. I know they have a lot to prove this week. So I'm going to pick the Bills as well, make it a clean sweep. Now, a good one here, first of the 3 o'clock games. You got the Bengals and the Broncos, both at 7-6, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. Christine, you start this one for us.
Okay, this is a tough one because this is one of the games that I circled because Cincinnati really did start off hot. Like I thought, whoa, this is the team that you have to look out for in the future. But playing in Denver, that's going to be tough. Atmosphere-wise, it's going to be tough. So I think this is going to be really close. The Bengals, their defense, they need to shut down the offense for the Broncos and Teddy Bridgewater. And the AFC North has done a number with Denver. Just to have a little facts here. So 0-3 against AFC North teams. So it's just, boy. I'm going to pick Cincinnati for this one.
All right.
I'm not to borrow this phrase again, take two and call me in the morning, but I'm going with the Broncos. As you mentioned, Christine, the Bengals, just like the Chargers we talked about earlier, they're a good team, but this is what young teams do. You win a couple in a row, you feel yourself, you're feeling yourself, and then you lose to a team that you're not supposed to lose to. Cincinnati, they had a heartbreaking loss at home against San Francisco last week, even though they came back from 13 points down.
Yeah.
They didn't run the ball very well. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, they were the story last week. It's going to be another tough sell. I'm not saying they can't win that game, but until they prove it to me otherwise, I'm going with Denver. And by the way, Cincinnati's a 3-point favorite as we stand here today.
Yeah, I guess they must know something we don't. I mean, Cincinnati has let me down the last couple of weeks. I mean, the 49ers game and, the game last week. I don't know what to oh, God. I'm going to hate myself. Oh, but I'm going to pick
Cincy. Come to the orange side.
I'm going to, they're both orange, but I'm going to pick Cincy again. Hopefully the third time will be the charm. But then again, watch Teddy Bridgewater throw for like 4 touchdowns or something. So I might regret it later. A good one here, again, sort of similar situation, in the NFC with the Falcons and the 49ers. Both teams hoping to keep their, I think the Falcons probably their slim playoff hopes alive. I think the 49ers are trying to find their groove. They're finding their rhythm. Mm-hmm. So I think Garoppolo's been looking pretty good. I know George Kittle's looked good. The defense looked good for the 49ers. So I'm going to pick the 49ers. It'll be close. I think the Falcons will keep it close, but I think the 49ers will pull away late.
Congrats to Christina for picking the Falcons last week against a bad Carolina team. But the Atlanta's playoff host will fizzle because they're going to lose to San Francisco. You know why? Because of the 49ers defense to Joey Bosa. And because of George Kittle, who's been the hottest tight end in the league over the last 3 weeks. So San Francisco's favored by 7.5 at home. I'm taking the 49ers. This is an easy one for me.
Yeah, I'm taking the 49ers for this one, too. They're finally starting to get their groove back, which George Kittle back. That's always a positive sign. He's a great energy on and off the field. Jimmy G's finding his groove again. So, yeah, 49ers for me, too.
All right. Now, again, this game has been rescheduled to Tuesday. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the late game on Tuesday. But still, nonetheless, we'll still pick it anyway in this order. You got the Seahawks and the Rams. Sid, you start this one for us.
I was really looking forward to watching that game live via my computer. Now I can. Damn it. I know who's upset more. Who's really upset is the folks at Fox. Originally, at the beginning of the season, this was supposed to have been America's game of the week, but thanks to Russell Wilson's busted thumb and their bad record, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Now it had to be moved to Tuesday. My goodness. But this is the world we're living in. The Rams are favored by 7. The Rams, as Lakeena mentioned earlier, they had a big win on the road. As I told you last Friday on this show, they'll beat the Cardinals on Monday Night Football. That's exactly what happened. Your boy, Christine, your boy Russell Wilson, he's in for a whole lot of trouble. Did you see Aaron Donald, what he did to Kyler Murray?
Yeah.
He's going to do it again. So I'm going with the Rams.
I'm picking the Rams for this one, too. Again, short and sweet. The Rams are a decent team. Seattle, they're up in the air with everything. So, Rams.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Rams, too. I mean, if we get the same Aaron Donald we got on Monday night, I think you might as well. I think Russell Wilson should probably just run. Should just run.
Yeah.
Run and probably don't come back. But we'll see. It should be a fun one, as it usually is between these two teams. As is this one. This could be the other America's game of the week. But unfortunately, Lamar Jackson will be playing due to ankle injury. So you're going to get Tyler Huntley as it starts as the Ravens host the Packers. So, Sid, you start this one for us.
If that's the case, and then you get Joe Buck on the call too. I know some of y'all hate him way more than me, but that's a whole nother issue. But as a fan, I'm cheering hard as hell for Baltimore. I am. But as an expert, I'm going with the Packers.
For a split second on Sunday night, I saw fear in Aaron Rodgers' eyes, and I held on to that image for as long as I could. But with Lamar Jackson not playing, actually Rodgers, that toe for him, the more that he plays on it, it's going to do him a lot of damage in the future. So that's kind of an unknown situation. I have no doubt that he'll probably start that game, and Green Bay is going to do what Green Bay does, and they're going to win. So Green Bay.
Yeah, and much I would love to see an upset, with Tyler Huntley. Can you do it again against the NFC North team? Of course, we saw what he did to the Bears, for a couple weeks back, but it's not going to happen. So I'm going to pick the Packers. It's going to be close though, but I think it's end up being the Packers. They'll probably pull away late now. In NFC South now, I guess NBC thought that their colleague Drew Brees is going to somehow come out of retirement and play this game, but that's not happening. The Saints and the Bucks. I'm going to pick the Bucks. I mean, they're kind of like they're on a high right now. They have an outside shot of getting that number one seed in the NFC. So, and I know Brady wants that bye. He's going to have a big game. That the defense is going to look really good against the Saints. Like they want to avenge that loss from earlier this season. So I'm going to pick the Bucks.
Oh, when Tom Brady comes marching in, like not the Saints, or when Tom Brady comes marching, and it's gonna be a Tampa Bay. What a game that they had with those Bills. It was a close one for sure, and it had me sweating a little bit. But they pulled it off, and I have no doubt they're gonna take over this field in New Orleans too. So I'm gonna go with. I'm sorry, they're at home. I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. They're gonna dominate their own home field.
Unfortunately, I won't be watching this game. I'll be watching the highlights. I'm telling them myself. You know why? Because I already know the results. Tampa Bay's favored by 11.5. Like you mentioned, Christine Brady's on the mission. They're going to avenge that loss from early year. Yeah. It doesn't matter if Sean Payton, who's not going to coach, by the way, for the Saints because of the bug. Yeah. But it's not going to matter. So take Brady, take the Bucks and the points. Book it.
Oh, I like that. Like the little saying there. Okay. All right, and last but not least, or depending on, or maybe least, depending on how you look at it, on Monday nights, you got the Vikings and the Bears. We've seen the Bears, of course, their entire coaching. Well, most of their coordinators are in COVID protocols. Sean Desai, Bill Lazor, of course, the Chris Tabor, their special teams coach. They're all going to be in COVID protocols. They probably won't be able to.
Oh, the substitute teachers in protocol.
Yeah, well, pretty much. Yeah, so
the reason I said it because he was the coach that filled in for Matt Nagy during that 49ers game on Halloween.
Yeah,
and the team actually looked good. They just couldn't pull it out.
Yeah, and also Nagy's gonna have that Denny's menu of plays. I know the Vikings are gonna be coming off a bye week. They still have an outside shot of getting to the playoffs. A lot has to happen in front of them, but they got to keep winning. It's gonna be close. I know it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be close, but I'm gonna say the Vikings. Just because I don't trust what the Bears, because they got too many guys in COVID protocols. You got the coaches in protocols too. Some of the coordinators. Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster for the Bears. So I'm picking the Vikings.
See, this is a tough one for me because you don't know which Viking football team you're going to get. They can win against really great teams like the Packers, right? But then they can lose against very bad teams like the Lions. And we got a glimpse on Sunday night in that first half of the Bears of what they can really do. And I was in shock. Like they were running the ball, they were throwing it with great plays. We saw an actual football team. And more importantly, like I mentioned before, Aaron Rodgers was on the edge of his seat a little bit. He's thinking, wow, I'm about to eat my own words right now when I say I still own you, because now this may happen. But it's so tough because to assess both of these teams with the seasons they've had, it's all kind of up in the air. I know with, COVID protocols and everyone being out, I don't know. I guess it depends for this game what type of a team we're going to get from the Vikings. So I don't know. I think what do they have for the over or under, Sid, for this game? Is it
The over and under totals is 43.5.
okay? So it's I think because it's a home game, it's Monday night. I think they're still kind of riding on that high. And like what you guys were mentioning at the beginning of the show too, if the guys want to keep their job, they got to have that tank and the gas in the tank, so to speak. So because Minnesota, from what I've seen, has been so finicky and so hot and cold, I'm going to pick the Bears for this one just because you don't know what team you're going to get out of the Vikings. And I know, obviously we're going to probably see Matt Nagy call a lot of plays. Maybe he's going to get a kick in his ass too, with all of this. Maybe he's going to realize, oh man, if I want another job, maybe I should do this. So it all depends on the type of game that the Vikings are having. So for right now, I'm going with the Bears.
I would laugh at this part, Christina, insert laughter here, but I'm not going to because it would be fitting for the Bears to surprise everyone for a win. It would be, but for my better judgment, I'm going with the Vikings. It's all about Dalvin Cook. It's all about Justin Jefferson. Enough said.
Right. Yeah.
I know, and I should do that too, but because literally the Vikings have been so hot and cold,
right?
And they either lose it right at the last second, or they have a field goal that loses it for them. So it's really up in the air right now for me.
Look, it's totally understandable, and then look, I get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears do try somehow pull this out. So it's always weird always a toss up with these two teams play each other. So. It is totally understandable. And those are your Week 15 picks for the National Football League. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Wrapping things up here with Sydney Brown and our buddy Christine Manika from KXRB in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm Lakeena McGee. College hoops talk real quick, guys. The Northwestern DePaul game, which is I was looking forward to. That was canceled because they're having COVID issues over at DePaul. Duke has had so Duke's had a pretty interesting week too. They had a game against Cleveland State that was postponed because they had to pause. Cleveland State did, and now they had a Loyola versus. They had to find another opponent. Now the Loyola versus Loyola Maryland game, they got that. That was a team that they added because one of their other games, because that game got postponed, canceled, I should say. So now that game's canceled because Loyola is having issues. Not the Illinois one, but the one just outside Baltimore and Maryland.
Yeah.
And let's do a couple others. I know UCLA, they had to pause, so it's because they're having COVID issues. Their game against North Carolina, which was supposed to have been on I think it was
that was the CBS Sports Classic. Yeah, and then
tomorrow,
the UCLA game is canceled too.
Yep. So,
postponed, I should say.
No, canceled. It was canceled.
It's canceled. Okay, yeah.
So it canceled. There have been a couple other games. I know Syracuse had to, their game got canceled because they're having issues over at Lehigh. Seton Hall, one of their next game was tomorrow against Iona. Coach Rick Pitino, because they're having issues. That game has been canceled. So just a lot going on with the college hoops on both the men's and women's side. I know a couple of the women's teams, they've had to postpone cancel their games, because they're having issues. A couple had to pause. It's just crazy.
It's crazy all the way around. And I will say this, what was it, last week? Cornell, they had to shut down the campus because 900 of their students got COVID. So it's just, again, I think it just depends on how these universities are going to handle this situation. Like we were talking about in the start of when I hopped on here, they're not going to shut down. Like they're just not. And they're going to try to do whatever they can to get as many games as possible without losing that much financially in that regard.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen here with both college and pro as we're trying to get through this challenging time, especially with the holiday season. We're right in the midst of it already. So we'll see how these leagues push forward push forward. We got less than a couple minutes left. Lakeena, let's give out a quick couple of quick shout outs. First to the Northern Illinois football team. They're going to play their ball game tonight. It's the Cure Ball from Orlando as they face Coastal Carolina at 5:00. You can see that game on ESPN2. That's at 5:00 tonight, Central Standard Time. So good luck to those Northern Illinois Huskies.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good Chanticleers team they're playing. So hopefully they can. If they can't pull off the Huskies, hopefully they can keep it close. So
yeah, and also to give a shout out to a good friend of the show, Lakeena, Miss Alyssa Berger-Meaty.
Yes,
she's a White Sox in-game host. She filled in for David Hall this morning on 670 The Score in Chicago on the Mullion Hall show. So she did a great job.
She really did.
She's a nice person. She's a great personality. Of course, if you go to White Sox games, you'll see her mingling with the fans as the official in-game host. And speaking of that, she wanted me to pass this along. She couldn't hop on today, but she's looking for a new co-host. So go to whitesox.com for more information. So they're looking for a new co-host.
All right. So if you're a White Sox fan, you want to hang out with Alyssa, you can have a lot of fun. I don't know if Win will be able to play anytime soon, but we'll have to wait and see. But still, anyway, it's a cool job. We've seen Alyssa's videos and her interviews. She does a great job. So, you guys this is a great opportunity for all you White Sox fans. I know Sid would enter, but I think he's a little, he might be older. Okay, so I'm not that I'm saying you're too old. So I'm not saying that.
Right. I know. But I would change everything up in there. Well, I don't know if the White Sox will like it or not. So, but we'll talk about that offline.
All right. Yes, we will. So, all right. So, what are you guys looking forward to this weekend? Despite all the craziness.
Going home tomorrow. That's what I'm looking forward to. And today is actually my grandma's 95th birthday. So that's
happy birthday.
So that's why I'm going home a little bit earlier. We're having a little party for her tomorrow. So that'll be nice. And then see my dog. I miss my dog.
Aw.
I just want to cuddle her a little bit.
Aw, that's adorable. What about you, Sid?
Whatever football games are available on Sunday, I'll actually watch those. I know a couple of games have been moved to Tuesday, and of course the Browns-Raiders game has been moved to Monday right before the Bears game. Whatever college basketball is left, I'll try to look at it. I'll try, but the ones that we talked about this last week, Lakeena, the ones I was looking forward to, they've been canceled, postponed. It just stinks. But there's a couple of good NBA games this weekend. Of course, I'll look forward to that. And hopefully the Bulls game will still be on for Sunday as they'll host LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed there. Yeah, all the things you said, Sid, but also too a couple of college hoop games. Tennessee and Memphis at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. Memphis coming off that big win.
Okay, I can watch that one. Penny Hardaway. Let's go.
Coming off that big win against Alabama, so definitely going to be checking out that game. That day you talked the bowl, all the bowl games. Even if you're not into the smaller ones, they're still pretty cool. They're playing the Bahamas Bowl right now, Toledo and Middle Tennessee. So that's an interesting one there. You guys can check the rest of that game. Marquette and Xavier on the college hoop side. That's FS1. That's at 3:00. And now the second game was canceled, but the first game of the CBS Classic is still on. You got Texas Tech hosting Gonzaga. Both teams looking pretty good, so that should be a fun one on CBS. So that game is still on. But so also too, Indiana Notre Dame, a great rivalry game that'll be on the Big Fox Network at 1:30. Notre Dame fresh off their big win against Kentucky. Indiana's been kind of up and down under first year head coach Mike Woodson. So finishing up their non-conference schedule. So. A couple great games, just whatever is left. So, just safety wise, hopefully there'll be some games for us to enjoy this weekend, I should say.
Yeah, not all is lost. Not all is lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. All right, Sid, take us home.
You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
Follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
Christine, where can people follow you?
And then they can follow me on Twitter at CManika_KXRV.
All right, folks. Sid, so wrap it up for us.
Okay, you go. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you Follow us on our podcast edition at War on Anchor. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Follow War Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can listen to Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. right here live and in living color on Sports Zone Chicago. We probably will have a slight change in our schedule next week. We'll keep you posted on that. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. All right, so you guys, please be safe out there. Like we've been saying earlier, wash your hands, wear your mask, wipe everything down, and just try to protect yourself from these new variants. Things are going crazy right now. But even still, for Sid and Christine, I'm Lakeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you next week.
Till Monday, holla!